I'd like to call to order the Public Safety and Human Services Committee. Clerk, can you read?
PSHS 2020-01, communication from Committee Chair Cowden requesting the presence of the Chief of Police to provide a comprehensive review of the Axon body camera officer safety plans and associated technologies.
I'd like to thank Police Chief Todd Raybuck for coming. I want to also acknowledge the excellent work that you're doing in your department and to just recognize the challenging week this is for everyone in the country, and certainly not least of all our police departments. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Motion to receive.
To receive. Second.
All those in favor?
No.
I mean, sorry. Okay. Okay. So, do we have any? Okay, so Chief Raybuck, thank you for the work that you did. You've done a lot here. We just last time had some questions, just wanting to know a little bit of the background on the body cameras. So thank you, and please proceed. Is he able to hear us?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you hear us?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
You can hear me all?
Yes.
Good morning, Committee Chair Cowden and Council Chair Kaneshiro and all the County Council members. I appreciate the opportunity to come here and answer some of the questions that you had related to the use of our body-worn camera program. I also apologize for the late delivery of the mountain of materials that we sent your way. I recognize that you have had no time to review those, and we will summarize the content that is inside of that and be able to answer some of those questions. I just wanted to make sure that you had those materials after this meeting, should you have any further questions or need to reference any of the information we provided you today moving forward. And so we'll do better to get that stuff to you in advance in the future. As you mentioned, this week and the last few weeks have been particularly busy and requiring a lot of our time in a lot of different areas, and so I apologize again for getting that to you late. Before I ask Captain Kalani to take over and brief you out on the materials that you have been sent, I just wanted to give you a quick overview of my experience when I was with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department and a study that was conducted there when the body-worn camera system was implemented in Las Vegas. The Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department in 2014 became one of the first large agencies in America. LVMPD is roughly the 6th or 7th largest police department in the nation. They were the first major police department to move towards issuing body-worn cameras to their patrol force. A grant funded by the National Institute of Justice to the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, did a randomized study that looked at officers that wore body-worn cameras in comparison to those officers who did not wear body-worn cameras. I provided you a summary of that survey, as well as a very detailed, in-depth, I think 67-page document completed for and presented by the National Institute of Justice that goes much further into that study. However, I just wanted to highlight a few of the outcomes from that study. First, the study found that officers with body-worn cameras had fewer complaints or misconduct incidents, or fewer complaints of misconduct and incidents of use of force. Respectively, the percentage of officers with body-worn cameras that generated at least one complaint decreased from 54.6% to 38.1%. By comparison, the percent of officers in the control group that generated at least one complaint decreased from 48% to 45.5%. So you can see a statistic significant decrease in the number of complaints generated towards those officers wearing body-worn cameras in comparison to their counterparts that did not have them. As far as reports of use of force, particularly in the troubling and difficult times of the things that we've been seeing occurring across the nation, with George Floyd and the violence associated with it afterwards. It's more important than ever that we are transparent and do everything we can to reduce the amount of use of force, particularly when it's unwarranted. And this study found that the percent of officers with body-worn cameras that generated at least one report for use of force decreased significantly from 31.2% to 19.7%. By comparison, the percent of officers in the control group that generated at least one report of use of force increased from 26.3% to 27.3%. Another interesting finding of this study found that productivity among officers wearing body-worn cameras increased. They issued slightly more citations and made slightly more arrests than their counterparts not wearing body-worn cameras. While the authors of this study, I don't think, opined to the reason why this may have been, anecdotally, working in Las Vegas, I can tell you that I believe that the officers with body-worn cameras felt much more confident to take the steps necessary to issue citations and arrests because they knew that their interactions with the community and their decisions were being recorded and could be defended later. Technology is not cheap, and neither is this package that we presented to you, and I'm grateful that the council has approved it moving forward. But the benefits of this technology is worth the money. And what this study found was that the money spent on body-worn cameras was an overall cost savings in the end. The cost of body-worn cameras were estimated to be between $828 to $1,097 per user per year. However, the cost savings as a result of fewer complaints and misconduct and fewer resources spent on misconduct investigations were estimated at $4,600 per user per year. The net savings associated with body-worn cameras were therefore estimated to be between $2,909 and $3,178 per user per year. What that study didn't account for was the likely decrease in monies spent towards defending lawsuits and paying out judgments that never were necessary because the complaints decreased and the amount of use of force decreased as well as a result of the body-worn cameras. So I just wanted to present statistical facts of an unbiased, randomized study about the benefits of the body-worn camera system. If there are no questions, I'll forward the rest of the presentation to Captain Kalani.
Okay, Captain K, please.
Good morning, Committee Chair Kauai, Council Chair, and fellow council members. Kalani K for the record. Thank you for allowing me to do this presentation this morning. I believe you have the slides that was sent over. I'm going to go over the slide package that references the KPD body camera review. So in 2013, the Police Department started noticing that complaints against officers are on the increase, and many of those were cleared as exonerated or not sustained. And what was being noticed at the time was that the complaints appeared that were coming from citizens who were retaliating against officers' enforcement actions, whether it be citations given or arrests, but that's what the appearance was. So initially, the program, we were looking into it to protect our officers against false complaints. And as you can see, some of the justifications, one of the big ones was the amount of time spent investigating complaints, citizen complaints, and the other was the impact that complaints made had on the officers who were being investigated. So that was the justification and what really sparked the department to move towards the body camera program. So after procurement and everything was put in place in 2015, end of 2015, the department started rolling out the body-worn camera program. At the time, the footprint really looked like what you see in front of you. There was a total of 105 cameras that were deployed, and it was mainly to the officers in the Patrol Services Bureau. So the officers and their supervisors were issued cameras and training and all the equipment that went along to stand up this body-worn camera program at the time. But as time passed, and up until now, we noticed that there were needs in other areas of the department that required cameras. So the current footprint of body cameras at KPD includes patrol, but it also includes some of the specialty units like traffic safety, the school resource officers, and also the workers that work in our detention center, our cell block, our holding cells. And that was, for us, implementing the body-worn camera program in the detention center was huge. That came in 2017, and I believe at the time, KPD was the first department in the state that implemented the body-worn cameras in the detention center to, reduce liability and be more transparent. And moving forward to 2020 with the new package and officer safety plan, we've seen additional need to add body cameras in other specialty areas, other high-risk areas, which include the special response team and our vice section unit. Some of the benefits that we've seen, and we got feedback from other county agencies on this too, just to highlight some of those is, really what you get from the body camera itself is that really raw, uncut video of what's happening at the time from the viewpoint of the camera. And it's very beneficial because what you often see in the media is clips of 30-second clip of an incident, which doesn't really reflect the entire incident from start to finish, which can be critical, and people use that to make judgments. But having the body camera and access to that videos is critical to protect the community, to protect the community members, to protect the department, and also the county itself. Also, what we've seen is having the video available to our officers helps them too with reporting, because they have an opportunity to refresh their memory. They might not catch or write everything down on their notebooks, but they can refer back to the videos and help them recall the incidents more vividly by looking at the video. It also really helps us look into, and not necessarily only notarized complaints, but the public calls the police department a lot. And a lot of times it's with general questions about incidents that they see in a community. And because we have the video to refer to, we can quickly pull it up, look at it, and provide responses, accurate responses to the public, and to give them a better idea of what's happening, or whatever we can share to help them ease their mind or better understand what's happening out there between the public and the police. A big one for us is the complaints process. We receive complaints, either the two main ways we receive complaints is through the Kauai County Commission or here at KPD. And what we've seen over time since the body camera program was instituted is, for us, the numbers have remained pretty steady, but where the impact for us has come is because we have the footage and we can quickly review, it allows us to make come to a resolution on the complaint quickly and keeping us more in line with our policy on timelines. And a lot of times, because of the video and a quick review of whatever information is available, we'll be able to resolve a complaint without having to conduct a full investigation, which would mean, the officer being served, they would have to provide a response, and whoever is involved in that particular incident, they all would have to be interviewed, and then at some point a report is generated to kind of put everything together. But because we have the access to the video and whatever crime reports are available, we can quickly resolve some of these complaints. So just to pass on some numbers, in 2019, there was a total of 21 complaints that came to the police department, 14 through the Kauai Police Department's chief's office and 7 through the police commission. Of those complaints, 15 of those complaints, the officers involved were required to activate their cameras. And here's a significant number. It's 13 of those were cleared just based on body camera footage alone. So you can see how great of an impact that is on our cases, our clearances, and our employee workloads. Let's see. Also, what we've seen is because of the videos, we've been able to review incidents, whether it be arrests, use of force, whatever comes to our attention, and we're able to create and identify training needs that were brought up because of that review. So a lot of what we see and we review often results in some type of action. So training needs have been addressed through body camera reviews too. Other agencies that have also benefited from our body camera program is Office of the Prosecuting Attorney. They use the body camera videos to decide on whether or not to charge. They look at it to help prepare their witnesses. They use it to review statements. They also look at it and determine if there's any flaws in the case and how to approach that and tactics to deal with those flaws, and if it's even would be in the best interest of them in prosecuting a case with flaws, So those are some of the things that was brought to our attention from the prosecuting attorney's office. On a county attorney side, they use these videos in addition to police reports and everything else to help defend not only the department and the employees from lawsuits, but they also use them all the time in evaluating and assessing claims that are brought against the county. For instance, we get a lot of these is vehicle accidents. County vehicle hits another party, or another party hits the county vehicle, and they file a claim. And it's the body camera footage has been very useful, not only for us as a department in reviewing our own incidents, but for the county attorney to decide on, claims and settling claims. Just some types of allegations that we've seen and cleared by the use of body cameras are you see listed here, but the highlights would be the excessive use of force, rudeness and overbearing conduct. We see those quite often. Illegal search and seizure. So these are just some of the types of complaints that get resolved through our body camera footage. And then some statistics, just some numbers of videos. So from 2016 to current, we've shared over 16,153 videos with the prosecuting attorney's office, which relate to or correspond to 3,132 cases. So quite a bit. And, with that comes all of the value of having that additional piece of evidence. And digital evidence right now, as you all know, it's something that the courts and the juries want to see. So this is critical that we be able to provide them and also provide the defense with this information too. So as you can see in 2020 to date, we're averaging 323 videos a month. So 323 videos are requested, and we actually have someone that actually has to share those videos with the prosecuting attorney's office. So quite a number of cases going across the hall to them. Random audits started at the department in 2016, and we have one employee that part of his job responsibilities is to do audits. And we use a randomizer that pre-selects the names, and the system is, how it works is, once the names are selected, it also selects the workday, and that workday is 2 weeks prior to the randomizing process. So that employee actually goes in, pulls up the names of the people that have been selected for random audit. They go into the work schedule, they pick the work day that was selected by the audit, and then they review recording, they review to make sure that the officer recorded in compliance with the policy based on the number of police calls that they went to or were assigned. And also they inspect the labeling for report number, making sure that everything is labeled properly. And they also do a 10-minute review of a random video. So if everything is within policy in the review, they record it, close it out, and move on to the next. And if there's something that pops up that is obvious that is not within policy, they continue the review, and then they write a report and address it accordingly. So out of the 1,410 random audits that have been completed, you can see the numbers of discrepancies are really low. And the types of corrective actions that have been taken are mainly retraining and counseling. And then, but there was one disciplinary action also to report. So pretty good success rate, and officers are following procedures. And then let's see, recordings, you can see the numbers of body-worn camera recordings that have taken place between 2015 and today. The numbers are so high. When I looked at these, I was really amazed. The amount of uploads, 198,000 videos, 32,000 hours of video, just so much video that we've captured from onset to now. So, and current, the number of videos are roughly averaging out at 121 videos and 119 hours plus of video per month. So quite a significant amount of data we're capturing and collecting and storing in our evidence.com video storage system platform. And then I can kind of wrap things up with just the highlights of what the new officer safety package is going to look like and what is going to be included in that. Evidence.com licenses, these are the licenses that allow our employees to access the data storage and management platform, where all the videos are stored, where they can go in and review, where they go in and share the videos for whatever requirements that they have. The plan also includes upgrades at year 3 and year 5. So how that works is, initially at the onset of this program, we'll be issued all of the new technologies, hardware, software, all the accessories, and everything that goes along to stand up this new officer safety program. All of the old technologies that we're using, or current technologies, will be recycled and go back to Axon. But how this benefits us is that at year 3 and year 5, there's automatic upgrades in the program so that we don't have to lay out any more funding to replace the body-worn cameras at these, intervals. So that helps on the fiscal end. And also included is all the extended warranties, all of the support, 24-hour support, on-site support if needed, and training required for us to have this program and keep it running. Storage, as you can see here, 40 gigabytes of other digital media. What that means is really victims, witnesses, suspects, whoever wants to submit videos that are related to a case that are not captured on an Axon device. That video, and just some examples of those, would be maybe a surveillance video that someone has of a break-in at their house or at a business, or maybe a video that they captured on their cell phone or some other form of digital media. They can submit that and it'll go into this other house of digital storage, which is, like it says here, 40 gigabytes of storage, additional storage. The Taser 7 conducted electrical weapon, that is the newest and most updated piece of equipment from Taser and Axon. And I sent a handout to you folks, and that handout really explains all of the benefits of that weapon and how it's improved over the current weapon. The current weapon that we have is the X26P. The technologies in that weapon are between 15 and 20 years old, from what I'm told. And this is just the upgrade to that piece of equipment. Along with that is the Axon Body 3 camera and the Axon Aware that works hand in hand with the Axon Body 3 camera that allows the us to monitor our employees, and when I say monitor, on those major incidents and critical uses of force, incidents along those lines, we can see where our resources are, and if we need to add more, take away, whatever have you. The Axon Aware will allow us to monitor our employees and assist them, and this will help increase their safety and the safety of the public because we can see it live on a web-based platform. Signal sidearm, I mean, these are all just brief explanations of what some of these technologies are, but I really want you to hear some of the benefits that we're going to be seeing once we get these equipment. Signal sidearm, this is a key right here. It's a sensor that is mounted on your weapon holster, and how it works is it'll send out an alert, and then also activate all of the body cameras that are in a proximity of, I want to say it's 30 feet of that officer that draws that weapon, which will automatically activate their cameras, and that way they won't have to think twice about, hey, you know what, I need to remember to tap my camera and turn it on. This will do it for them, and it just create a safe environment there. Axon Performance, what that is it will allow, it's a software that will allow us to do more real-time auditing of body camera activations, labeling, and reviews, and this will allow our first-line supervisors to be a part of that review process, so they can see immediately at any point in time in their shift after shift how their employees are activating their cameras, and they can take corrective action right away if they see, an employee is not turning their camera on in compliance with policies or what have you. They can do it right away. whether it be through training or through counseling or whatever it is. And then Axon Evidence that is the platform that we use for storing all of our evidence. Well, I wanted to touch on, I skipped over Citizens for Officers. This one here is new. We just started testing it. It came out, I want to say within the last year from Axon, but this allows our officers to use their department cell phones with an app that Axon has. So when our officers go out into the field and they make contact with victims, witnesses, whatever have you, and if they have digital media that relates to or is relevant to a case, the officer can immediately share a link to that involved party for them to upload whatever digital media evidence they have available right there. In the past, officers would have to either wait for the evidence, they would have to go back and collect a DVD, CD, or whatever have you that the party would download the information onto. But now this can be done immediately, and it's so far it's been we've had good responses on how this has helped make things more efficient in the field. So just to wrap things up, so far from what I've seen, this body-worn camera program, the TASER program, it's really hard to put a dollar amount on it and to show how much benefit it has on the department. But I've seen how efficiencies, activities have been more smooth. How our complaints have been resolved quicker. So I can see the benefit in that area. The officer safety plans as a whole is beneficial for not only the department but also for the county, because it allows us to lock into a rate for a contract for a period of time. It's set. We have built-in upgrades that we don't have to put out any additional funding for. And one of the biggest things for us is having the support that we need for technologies 24/7, because we're operational 24/7. If something happens, we need to be able to resolve that issue and continue the mission. So the support is really key for us. And as you could see on some of the data that I put out, is that the unlimited storage is also very, very important and critical for us, because we just capture so much data on the camera system. So I think that is key. And what is going to be new with the new officer safety plan, which I think overall is going to benefit us too in cost savings, is that Axon includes training costs in the officer safety plans, which includes TASER instructor training. They also include cartridge replacement plans, training cartridge replacement plans, which in the past, all of those were a la carte and would just bring up the cost when you add, travel out to Hawaii and everything else that comes along with training. So overall, I think we will see a cost savings in moving to this officer safety plan. So, and just to wrap things up, I just wanted to say thank you for supporting us on this request, and we appreciate everything that you've done for the Park Police Department.
Thank you, Captain K, and thank you, Chief Raybuck. Members, yes? Chief?
Sorry, Chief Raybuck for the record. If I could just conclude with this. As Captain K said, we just want to thank you for your continued support with this program, not only with the initial implementation of the body-worn camera system here in Hawaii. KPD was the first to initiate that in the state, but your continued support as we have looked for technology to come alongside of us to continue to allow us to do our job effectively and be transparent with the community and how we do that. I want to acknowledge retired Deputy Chief Contreras. It was really he led the charge to get this body-worn camera system afloat here in the state, and we would be where we are here today. I want to acknowledge Captain K as well, because as you can see, he's put a tremendous amount of work into negotiating and working out this plan to provide it for our department and our county. We had the opportunity to have a face-to-face meeting with the creator and owner of Axon. He was here on Kauai. He met with a team of us, and he actually asked the question, how is it that Kauai in the middle of the Pacific Ocean is one of the few police departments that got the first beta system to utilize this program? He was shocked involved at the level that we were involved. And it's because of the body-worn camera team. And immediately they have been engaged in this technology. We continue to watch what the advancements are so that we can continue to improve. And as soon as the Axon folks started identifying new technologies, this team at KPD reached out to our contacts and said, we want to be first in exploring this new technology because we want to continue to advance what we use, the betterment of our police department, our community, and the county. So I just wanted to say thank you for everyone who was involved, and I'll open the floor for any questions you may have.
Okay, members, Vice Chair Kogawa.
Thank you, Councilmember Calden, for having this on the agenda, and I just want to thank Chief Raybuck and Captain K.A. For a very detailed and good presentation, and I am 100% support behind this program. And I guess one question that I had was, we have such a complex system. I mean, do we have personnel in place to? I mean, it just looks like tons of work. I just can't believe how complicated it is and how much storage you need, and on a daily basis. I mean, imagine if you had to put cameras on like every teacher teaching class, or every employee that our county has to make sure they're doing their job. The only person singled out to do this is the police officer, and you guys have the most dangerous and crazy job there is. So I thank you guys for doing the hard thing, and you guys have the most dangerous job of all, and willing to do it for the right reasons, as far as saving ourselves a lot more work on the back end if we didn't have it. So thank you guys. Yeah. So about the staffing, Office Captain K, do we have the staffing there to go with this expanded program?
Yes, Councilman Kagawa. We have staffing that will help us roll this program out and keep it maintained. But one of the things that is going to be very helpful for us is that the vendor, Axon, they'll be able to provide us on-site support when we actually roll this program out, and also support moving forward. So that is important, and that will be one of the ways we get this off the ground. But yeah, we do.
Chief, you got anything regarding future potential staffing needs that we should be braced for?
And thank you for asking that question. It does take a lot of work. I really appreciate the comparisons between what it would take to put body-worn cameras on teachers and county staff, and that the police department has gone in that direction to do that with our employees. So thank you for drawing that out. It does take a lot of work and a lot of effort, and I think that as Captain K highlighted, we do have the resources in place. We have the support from Axon, but this continues to expand. Technology continues to expand in every area of policing. And so as we continue to move forward, there is a potential that we may need to increase the manpower and staffing. As Captain Kay pointed out, we only have one employee that's assigned to do all these audits. But that's an auxiliary job. That's not a full-time job. Like most employees at KPD and elsewhere for that matter, the officers and employees here are tasked with doing multiple jobs that would be better suited by individuals assigned to focus only on that one task at hand. We don't have the luxury of doing that. And so we make do, and we've got hardworking employees that are dedicated to maintain this program, and I think that we'll continue to do it in a successful way.
Thank you. Last question. So, I'm looking at this because luckily I was here at the beginning when you guys first did the body cams, and so I'm seeing, it full circle. And now this looks a lot more complex. It has a lot more, looks like bells and whistles. So, as we go through this 2020 year and we start this out, are we looking at, what maybe some of those that bells and whistles that maybe we don't need so much and we can ease up time, and then which bells and whistles we like to, improve as well. So we're going to have that constant monitoring of the program to make sure we find the right shoe for Kauai.
Chief Raybuck, for the record, yes, absolutely. We constantly evaluate what technologies and resources we use to determine whether or not those are still necessary. One of the things that we do know about, no matter where we work and what job we do, the world is becoming much more complex, and so is the technology and the requirements for us to keep up with that. And so, it's not going to get a whole lot easier for us. Fortunately, we have a generation behind us that understands this better than we do. But we'll have to continue to look at how technology and the policing and the jobs that we do continue to improve how we do our job and how we interface with the community. So we'll continue to work on that and look at that because we're concerned about that as well.
Thank you, Chief.
Councilmember Kuali'i.
Yeah, hi. Thank you both for being here and for all this information. Chief, I appreciated your information on the front end from the Las Vegas and the data there. I especially like hearing about the net savings they were able to get with their being from $2,900 to $3,100 per user per year. So when I look at the total contract, which you shared as 1.5 million, are you, and also the number you shared for the cases and the criminal cases and videos shared 3,000 and then videos shared 16,000, are you already working on the specific analysis to see, like Vegas did, what our savings are, and when will you be able to share that?
That's a fantastic question, and the easy answer is, and fast answer is no. Vegas was able to do that because they got a grant through the National Institutes of Justice, and they had a research university in the city with some of the nation's top law enforcement researchers right there in their backyard. They were able to partner with the police department and do that at no expense to the police department. But even though the study that I presented to you highlighted the incredible amount of savings on the body-worn camera, the 1.5 million that we're talking about here and all of the additional equipment that we're utilizing, it would be incredibly hard. As I mentioned earlier, the researchers can't account fiscally what type of savings you're talking about when those reductions of use of force, because we do know that anytime a use of force is applied, there's a risk, a great risk, as we've seen recently. And every time that you can reduce the amount of force, everything that goes along with that, including litigation and settlements, is reduced as well. How do you put a dollar savings on the unknown, on what you didn't have? I can't provide those numbers. I would love to. But included in that package as well, as Captain Kate highlighted, is some advanced technology. And just like an insurance policy that you have on your car or your home, you never know what the savings is. In fact, insurance costs money. It's not a cost savings. You pay up front every single month for insurance because you just don't know when you might need that policy to kick in. Some of the technologies that we are implementing today, they cost money. And there's no way that we can identify what those cost savings are going to be until that unknown pops up and we realize. And then finally, some of the technologies that we are implementing today are simply the cost of doing business. Business and the expectations of what the police department does today has changed. Courtrooms and juries and community and the public expect to see technology such as body-worn cameras, surveillance videos, different types of those technologies handy on every single call. And so those types of technologies aren't necessarily a cost savings, they're a cost drain. But that's what the expectation is for us to be able to do our job today. So in answer to your question, now that I gave you the long answer, I'll go back to the short one. Probably not, sir, and I apologize.
As a follow-up, do you think at a minimum maybe the prosecutor could tell us, because if the information we're providing the prosecutor is making it easier for them to complete cases in a shorter amount of time, perhaps at a minimum we could get those numbers on what we're saving?
Certainly, I can talk to Justin Collar, and I don't know what his capabilities are in quantifying that in a dollar amount, but be happy to see if we can find that out for you.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Councilmember Epstein?
Thank you so much, Chief Raybuck and Captain K, for the really extensive presentation. It sounds like, I think without a doubt, the body camera program has been successful to increase accountability and, as you said, reduce the use of force and save money. Chief Raybuck, I also appreciate your comments referencing the national events going on right now and around George Floyd's death and the need to reduce the use of force nationally. And I know that this is a really difficult and emotional time for many across the country, especially people of color. And I know it's really difficult for you all right now as police officers who are dedicated to serving your community and going out there every day. And there's a lot of negative attention focused. I really appreciate all of the work that you guys do, especially the huge amount of community outreach, the pancakes that you're doing on the weekends. And I think, a lot of people, when they see a police officer, here on Kauai, it's not, oh no, what did I do wrong? You guys really, are there to serve your community in a number of ways. And I think along with that type of outreach, it's also helpful that we have a police force that is, I think, really representative of our island's, diverse ethnic groups here. And I think that's, probably reflected in the low number of complaints that we get regarding excessive use of force. I just have one question, along with the body cameras and some of the other technologies that you guys spoke of, in recognition of this conversation happening nationwide. Could you maybe speak about some of the other policies around, de-escalation or reducing the use of force that you guys do utilize?
Chief Raybuck, for the record, Councilman Eslin, thank you very much for your acknowledgement and for your appreciation of the hard work and the difficult situation that we all find ourselves in, as not just as police officers, but as humans, as a nation and a community that has witnessed way too much violence and pain and suffering on both sides of the badge. Sorry, I got emotional. Remind me what your question is.
Sorry, just if you could maybe speak briefly about some of the policies that you guys have around reducing the use of force.
Yep. So our current policies are aligned with the CALIA standards, CALIA is the accreditation organization that we participate in. They look at best practices or policies across the country related to police officers. And so our policies do address that. I have been reviewing, in fact, we have a new draft policy in place for use of force. It will extensively increase the use of force policy by the KPD. Our current policy is about 17 pages long. It will increase our policy to about 33 to 35 pages long. We've continued to refine that. That process began several months ago, long before this incident occurred. And we did that because I have the benefit of being a member of a police department previously that was on the forefront of becoming the national model in use of force. And so it's a long, arduous process. It's not just a matter of changing words. It's about training. It's about delivery. It's about changing hearts. It's about changing philosophies and thoughts. And so it goes much further than what is on paper. This morning, I met with about 30 of my police officers that were assigned to day shift, and I have another briefing this afternoon and 2 more briefings tomorrow so that I can reach every single one of my officers and as many employees as I can on KPD so that we can address this issue that we face nationally head on. So they can hear from me directly what we are facing, the challenges that we've had, the mistakes that and I'm talking collectively in law enforcement, have made in this country, and what the expectations are for a duty to intervene. You know, I apologize. The duty to intervene is a great language and philosophy that's being spoken about a lot now. Unfortunately, law enforcement around the nation, it has not been it's not been something that is as discussed as it should have been. I mentioned the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. They invited the Department of Justice in to do a collaborative reform, and that reform is online. And they looked at every single policy and practice that was done there. And they made a lot of changes. And one of those changes was the duty to intervene. We have an obligation in law enforcement to stop injustice, whether it's being conducted by a citizen or somebody that wears the same uniform as we do. And so I made it very clear this morning to our officers that they have a duty to intervene, not just morally, not just ethically, but also legally to intervene. And I'll continue to communicate that message, because words on paper mean nothing if we don't have that conversation and it's not communicated and accepted by everyone who receives that. So we will continue to look at ways to reform what we do. It's oftentimes the benefit of 2020 hindsight that we realize, wow, how did we miss that, or what did we do about that? And you know what I've learned in my law enforcement career and the many, many tragedies that I've witnessed is that every tragedy affords an opportunity for us to get better. And I know that the Kauai Police Department and myself in this county and the people that live here, as we've seen through COVID for the last 3 months, are committed to making our community better, and we'll do that together.
Thank you very much, Chief. I really appreciate your leadership and your voice right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others? Councilmember Kuali'i?
Yeah, I had another question about numbers and not dollars, but maybe numbers of body cameras. In your slide, you said 105 cameras were deployed in 2016. And then you broke it down by patrol, traffic safety, detention, and school resource officers. And then you talked about the additions in 2020 for the special response team and the vice narcotics section. You may not have it now, but could you follow up with the numbers that go with each of those categories?
Sure, I can do that, council member.
And then I had a pretty basic, naive question. And so that number of 105, after this additions, it's going to go up to what number? You know that?
It's going to go up to 135.
135. And these are all, you call them officers and supervisors, obviously, yeah? People in the uniform.
Actually, not all. So officers, supervisors, and we also have some civilian workers that work in our public detention center. They're called public safety workers. They're also being outfitted with those cameras too. They're wearing them currently, so they would be a part of that number.
And the cameras are just on all the time, as long as they're working?
No, they're not. They're certain incidents they're required to activate the cameras. In the field, generally it's enforcement actions. In the detention center, it's when they're receiving prisoners, processing prisoners, along those lines.
So if the number is 135 of people wearing the cameras, what is the number of the same type of positions, officers and supervisors and others that you mentioned, that don't wear the cameras?
Chief Raybuck?
Yeah, Chief Raybuck, for the record. Thanks for asking that question. So we have 162 commissioned officers. I currently have 19 vacancies. I'm not as good at math, Councilmember Kalani, so you'll have to do the math there for me.
What was the first number? 160?
162. We currently have 19 vacancies.
Okay.
So when you look at the 135, that's a substantial percentage of our commissioned officers, and the couple of, we only have 2 civilian workers in the jail currently. So you can look at that, that's a substantial number of our commissioned workforce. The ones who aren't going to be wearing the body-worn cameras are some lieutenants and then captains and above. I don't think anyone wants to see me sit at my desk and pull out my hair with the reports that I have to write all day. So we'll never get to 100% of commissioned officers wearing those. As I highlighted earlier in my presentation, this technology is not cheap. And so you have to weigh against, what's the cost-benefit analysis of who we put these on. And so the priority initially was to get those on the frontline officers. And as we've continued to evaluate this process, as Councilmember Kagawa has discussed earlier, we recognize that we need to expand it to include other persons that may be engaged in activities where we would benefit from the value of recording their interactions with the public.
And then my last question is, so the new homeless rapid response initiative, will that involve any officers and supervisors who wear the camera?
Yeah, the answer is yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any others? I have a couple of comments and a few questions. I first want to really express gratitude that we have this opportunity for a public discussion on Kauai Police Department's efforts towards use of force reform and transparency. Thank you so much for giving us a quality briefing and heartfelt statements, and I just want the public to know that this briefing and this effort was put in place ahead of these national events. So this is existing policy intention and effort. You didn't need a national crisis to stimulate improvements on this. And it's really important, I feel, to be strengthening or creating confidence in our public safety department. I do want to make a comment, and then I'll give you my questions. Over the past several decades, my effort has been, whether it's in my business, education, community advocacies, or a range of boards and councils I've been on, I have a pattern of reaching towards the marginalized and, those who what we would call at-risk community, even incarcerated or adjudicated community. And what I have noticed since the bringing on of the cameras is that community complains a whole lot less about a problem. We're hearing that the police feel like it's really benefited them, and it looks like saved the county money, but the at-risk community, they report better behavior from the police, and they self-reflect on better behavior from themselves. They say they have more self-awareness and that they are creating less problems for themselves when they know that they're filmed. So I just wanted to give that voice for the other side of the badge, that I get positive responses from this. Okay, here's my questions. With this taser number 7, heart injury potential, is there a health improvement on the recipient of getting tased?
Councilmember Cowden, Chief Raybuck, for the record, thank you very much for sharing the other side. I think we all do better when we know we're on video. And so, I think it's a benefit for everyone involved when we have that available. Regarding the Taser 7 and the controversies over the potential for fatalities, there's been a lot of research scientifically what ramifications and consequences to the human body as a result of the use of the Taser. I'm not qualified to provide any information regarding whether or not what the results of that research is. I can certainly do some research and provide it to you. I can tell you that we don't call these non-lethal weapons. We call them less lethal weapons. And the intent of using the Taser is to reduce the level of force necessary to gain compliance in order to reduce risk and harm and the potential of death to the officer and the individual involved. And so every use of force comes with a risk that it may result in death. As Captain Kalani stated, the technology we currently use is approximately 15 to 20 years old. This new technology continues to advance to address some of the concerns and some of the issues. I'm not educated enough to brief you on that, but we certainly can have the Axon representatives be able to provide you whatever information you need in response to your question.
Okay, I might actually appreciate even just some written information from them. Is it correct that when your officers are in police training and maybe even retraining, that they get to experience what it feels like to be tased?
Chief Raybuck, for the record, yes. Actually, our police officers are tased in training. I gotta be honest with you, I'm not sure I really like that much because there's a risk there to as well. Anytime you deploy force, there's, as I mentioned just a moment ago, there's always a risk of injury. But currently, they are tased, and the purpose for that is, that platform allows us to share with the police officer what the experience of the person on the other end of the deployed taser has and is experiencing. And, sometimes when you know how bad it hurts, you realize the consequences, and I think that it potentially reduces the abuse of that because they know how what it does, but more importantly, it also gives them confidence that when it's deployed properly, it will be effective and allow them to safely take somebody into custody.
Have both of you ever been tased, either or both of you? Have you?
Heck no.
Okay, you haven't. You haven't tried it. Okay. Uh,
I have gotten tased before.
You have. So I also, if citizens want to know summary data or reports, they can go to the Kauai.gov site, correct? When I go to the police commission meetings, there's rather robust information that is provided every month, and that is available for public review, correct?
Correct. That information is placed on the police commission under the agenda in the meeting notes. And so the topics that we discussed there and the reports that you referred to are all there for public consumption. And we want to share more of that in the future. We've been trying to improve our website, the financial side of that, and the manpower needed to try to improve that isn't conducive to us moving that along quickly enough, is where I would like it. I would like to get to the point where our KPD site actually provides a transparency page that includes the easy access to some of this data that we've shared at the police commission, as well as some additional data too.
I'll just state for the record that I wish the police commission meetings were aired on Hawaii. I think there is really robust information shared there, a lot of competency amongst an incredible board, a incredible commission at present, and that I think it's also valuable to see the officers that are recognized each time, because it's a good reflection on what is done right. So as somebody who is pretty deeply immersed at sometimes the community that's on the wrong side of the badge, I want to appreciate what you're speaking to here and the job that you're doing, and the very evident trend to be continuously moving towards more transparency and warm interaction with the community. So thank you. Does anybody have anything further to say? Anybody? Council Member Chalk?
Thanks, Madam Chair. This is just my final discussion, and I just want to take the moment to thank Captain K and Chief Raybuck for the in-depth discussion today and presentation on this the use of our body cams. And I want to thank also our past leadership with Michael Contreras, Chief Contreras, and him initiating, having the foresight to really get this off the ground, being the first on, in this county to move in this direction. And I think it speaks to our interest as a community to provide increased accountability and transparency. And just in this time, as we look at the climate of our nation and the things that are happening around in the mainland particularly, and not so much here, that we are proactive as a community in ensuring that that we're taking every measure so that use of force is mitigated in a proper way. So thanks again for the briefing, and I fully support this, of course, because ultimately, not only does it provide transparency and accountability, it could possibly save lives. Mahalo.
Council Chair Kaneshiro?
Yeah, no, I just want to say thanks for the presentation. I think the timing ends up pretty well with what's going on around the U.S. I definitely see the benefit of having the camera and keeping everyone accountable for their actions. I do want to leave you with one last comment from myself, hearing that, we may be looking at needing additional staff as technology gets better and the type of work that you have to do to, record keep and stuff. And I just want to maybe start the seed that, we look at civilian jobs versus having actual police officers doing that type of work. I want to see a police officer that has gone through our training, is a trained police officer, has their badge, doing police officer work, and if possible, someone maybe doing an audit on cameras and things like that don't need the type of police officer training, but is still able to do the type of paperwork or office work that police needs, that we maybe make that rationale and make a decision as far as going with a civilian versus an actual police officer. Just considering the cost of a police officer versus a civilian worker, and again, how well we use our resources. Where is a police officer best used? So that's just my last final comments.
Vice Chair Kagawa.
Yeah, thank you. I want to thank again the KPD for all the work they do on a daily basis. I've seen a great reduction in lawsuits against officers, and it's not just a reflection on body cams; it's a reflection of our department and the leadership. I think we've got I think we got great leadership all around, from assistant chiefs, captains, what have you. So I'm very confident, 100% behind our officers, very appreciative of our officers. And I make a plea to the public. I mean, what happened in the George Floyd case, don't apply that to all police officers and all counties. I don't think, and the family of George Floyd said themselves, how does looting and rioting, honor his death? And peaceful protest, if it turns into that, is helping to promote that. So I mean, let's all be sensible, and let's not place blame on areas that are not even contributing to what happened. There's mistakes made every day by people around the world, and to say that you support something that's going to lead to rioting and looting and destroying counties and communities is total hypocrisy, and it damages communities, damages faith in government, and to me, it doesn't lead to anything good in the end. So let's my plea to the community: let's be sensible. Let's trust our police department, especially here on Kauai. We got great police officers. We got major other areas to worry about. I don't see any racism problems. I don't see abuse of force problems with our KPD. I'm very happy I live Kauai, and I'm happy my family and friends live on Kauai. And let's respect and appreciate the officers we have and the leadership we have. And then let's get through COVID safely. And that's all we can do at this point. And let's come together in this time of stress nationwide, and let's treat it in a different direction than what's happening on the main. Thank you.
Any others? Councilmember Kuali'i?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I appreciated your comment about investing in technology and how it's an important part, it's a cost of doing business, basically, is what you said. And this for sure helps us with transparency and accountability, but I would just ask that you folks also work on utilizing all of this, but yet being as efficient as we can as far as the cost, especially considering our current situation and the future projected losses to our revenues. As tough as our budget was this year, I expect it'll be even tougher next year. And while public safety is right up there at the top as our core services, in order that our county can best serve our public all across all areas, then we need everyone to be being as efficient as possible. But I appreciate all the hard work you guys are doing and all the great work that you are doing. And it's proud to have you all, especially seeing what's happening in other places. So keep up the good work.
I guess I have one final thing in response to what Vice Chair Kagawa said, in that my understanding is that there's likely to be a rally, not a protest, this weekend. And I don't know exactly who is organizing it. I haven't figured that out. But I have spoken to a number of different people or seen the conversation. And what I have heard is from the Black community that we do have on the island. It's not a very large community, but that it has really been very meaningful for them to see people of many races and many ethnicities or special groups come together. It's been super heartening for them to see police departments in different communities standing there with them in agreement that their life does matter, that people are there for them. I know when we had last season some killing in the synagogues, it was heartening for me to see all the other faiths coming together to support the Jewish community, saying you matter and we're there for you. And the best that I can understand about whatever is happening in that rally is really there for our people who might feel that they're from an overlooked race or that it doesn't matter what happens to them. The goal is collectively from the different ethnicities to stand there and say, you do matter and we do care. And I'm happy for this briefing that will be out there for people to see that our police department is committed to justice and fairness for everyone. So thank you. Councilmember Evslin?
Sorry, just a brief comment on the, there will be a paddle out in Honolulu. It's at 9 a.m. It's organized by various members of Honolulu Canoe Club and some North Shore community. I believe KPD will have a presence at the paddle out. And I also just want to recognize, that the vast majority of vigils and solidarity events and protests have been peaceful across the country, and it does mean something when people stand, in support of those who've lost their lives or those who have faced discrimination in different forms and against violence. So and I do think certainly there's been outside agitators in a lot of these events, which have led to looting and rioting and terrible things. But I don't think that we can paint all of these events with the same brush. And I totally respect anybody who goes out or doesn't go out. But certainly there's a right for people to paddle out in solidarity.
What day is that paddle out at 9 a.m.?
Sorry, it's Saturday, 9 a.m. in Honolulu Bay.
Okay, thank you.
There's a number of other events happening too. That's just one of them.
Anything further? All right, so we have a motion on the floor to receive. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you so much. So that concludes our committee meeting for Public Safety and Human Services.